Greetings, my Gavanen. Welcome back to my channel for another Wednesday Tolkien quote day. This one is one of my favorite ones, and this one is from his Tolkien on Fairy stories. If you want to go a little bit more in depth with his idea about fairy, then I highly recommend this book because this is based off of his research, based on his look into fairy realm and basically his idea about fantasy and literature and its importance to tell fairy tales, to tell the legends and folklore of this world. So I highly recommend that book. So the quote I want to talk about today is, "Fairy contains many things besides elves and fays, and besides dwarves, witches, trolls, giants, or dragons. It holds the seas, the sun, the moon, the sky, water and stone, wine and bread, and ourselves, mortal men, when we are enchanted." So let's take this quote apart. I've often pondered this quote for a while, and I really love that it's describing what we basically think about the fairy realm, containing all these different mythical beings and these different archetypes of elementals. And what I really like is that he shows the elves and the fays as kind of different, and it's something that I have been slowly kind of remembering, and I even did some videos about it, that elves tend to have a different type of energy than fairies do. And what I think that Tolkien was trying to make clear was that he believed that elves were a little bit more like men or mankind, and they were like the bridge between the Fae world, which has a little bit more wild types of elemental beings. But the elves, if you think about them either being small or larger, they certainly look humanoid, and so you can see that in the fairy tales and folklore about elves. So I think that's what Tolkien was saying here, and I love that he's just bringing out all these different ideas about magical, mythical beings in fairy realm. And what the importance of this quote is that he's talking about how nature is the common ground between the fairy realm and the human realm. So we can enjoy the fairy realm when we reconnect to nature within this earth, and when we can look at the seas and the sky and the trees and stone and water with appreciation and gratitude and see its beauty. That's when we get in touch with the fairy realm. All these elements of nature exist in fairy realm that also exist on earth within this dimension, and so we can actually tap into this fairy realm when we ourselves are in love with nature on earth. And I love that he put the wine and the bread. This is a little bit of a hint towards possibly his Christianity or Catholic thoughts in the idea of the sacred wine and bread. And so he's showing that the spirit that we might think is exclusive to religion is also a high sense of spirituality that can be found in the fairy realm. You know, creatures that hold noble-mindedness and divine love, and these light beings that can offer that. It's really about having this element of spirit within, and so it connects to the sacred wine and bread of the Holy Spirit. Even though it's different, it might be the same in Tolkien's mind a bit, although he did say that he felt that the fairies were really neither on the way to hell or to heaven, but were somewhere in between. So he's also suggesting that when we get in touch with the Holy Spirit, we're getting in touch with this higher angelic spirit of the fairy realms as well, and that we can get in touch with that in that way. And ourselves, mortal men, when we are enchanted. So mankind itself can actually experience the fairy realm the more enchanted they become with these mythical beings and with these stories of this realm. And so it's kind of like the idea where your consciousness will go and take you next on an adventure wherever it goes. So those of us that find ourselves enchanted by the fairy realms and the stories and the tales, we will find ourselves actually belonging to the fairy realm itself in many ways. We exist within that realm and that dimension of thought because we direct our consciousness and our awareness towards it. So the fairy realm is very much an astral field, a spiritual field of elemental beings that live together harmoniously and coexist. And they have their differences because they all represent different elements. But we ourselves can actually feel fairy realm within us when we are in love with nature, when we are enchanted by the fairy tales and the fairy stories that we hear as children. And so if we can remain open-minded and allow ourselves to just kind of wander into this place, and keep a head about your shoulders, because when you go into fairy realm you might not want to come back because it's such a different type of land and state of consciousness than Earth. But if you go in as a visitor, an enchanted visitor with respect and gratitude towards the fairies and the fairy beings, then you will be welcomed to join them and celebrate nature, the beauty of nature with them. And so I believe that this quote is talking about all these things, and I just think that it's so beautiful because it really shows where Tolkien is thinking and where he's headed. And I really do believe that he believed, just as he talked about in the Silmarillion, and I found out in his letters that he thought that Valinor, this idea of this light realm of the Silmarillion, was really also fairy. And so it's also connected to heaven, to some people's heaven. Maybe not everyone's heaven, but it certainly will be connected to those that love and cherish nature deeply in their hearts. The best example I can give of this is, have you ever been somewhere so beautiful in nature that you almost thought that this could be heaven on earth? Have you ever witnessed such a beautiful scene wherever you have been in the world? So in some way we can see glimmers of heaven, or we can even make heaven be on earth when we act to preserve the beauty of nature, to connect to all of the natural beings within it. And in some ways it could provide us an experience of heaven on earth when we are reconnected to nature, or when we have never left our connection at all. So it's a great reminder to us to know that heaven can be here. It's just a matter of perspective and allowing yourself to feel the beauty on earth and to really experience it deep within your heart, which is where the fairy realm can truly be felt, is through the heart. Not just through the mind, but through the heart. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you all in the next video.